Hey there, welcome. Derek Rydall, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling books Emergence and the Abundance Project. And I'm really excited to talk to you today about the scary results of success and really why we avoid it. And this is somewhat controversial and somewhat a thought experiment that I want to start with here is to look at what are the big results we want to see in the world. We want to see everybody healthy. We want to see a world at peace, a world without conflict, a world without war, right? We want to see everybody in great relationships and in love. We want to see families healthy and thriving. We want to see the forests taken care of and flourishing, and the cities clean, and all of these things, right? And so that seems obvious. We want all of these wonderful outcomes, the utopian society, the utopian world. But what would actually happen if we got that? Let's just start with health. If suddenly your prayer, if our collective prayers of everybody being healthy was answered, because there's lots of prayers going up for that, right? If it was suddenly answered, the entire economies of many of the major countries, especially the United States, would collapse. Because so much of our industry, so much of our livelihoods, so much of our GDP and our bottom lines of companies and countries is based on the need for perpetual problems. I want you just to think about that for a moment. The more war, the more sickness, the more relationship and family dysfunction and educational problems and problem children and youth, etc., the more crime, the more robust our society is economically, the more jobs there are. Now, that's not to say that there's not a lot of jobs that are not about that. But even think about, a lot of you watching this, your area of work or your desired area of work. You're a health coach, you're a success coach, you're a family coach, you're a family therapist, you are a relationship expert. And if suddenly all people were really finally knew how to have great relationships, you'd be out of a job. And if suddenly everybody was healthy, you'd be out of a job. And not only you, but the whole supply chain of people that are connected to that problem in society. Now, of course, for the most part, it doesn't occur overnight, right? Nothing really occurs overnight. A disaster doesn't occur overnight, and a success doesn't occur overnight. It's a series of small actions and transformations that eventually either grow incrementally or grow dramatically. There's a quantum leap. But in the unconscious of the pharmaceutical industry, and maybe not even in the unconscious of the health industry, there is a values conflict. Because to truly cure disease and truly create a society of vibrant, healthy, thriving people, the unconscious knows that would mean death. Death to livelihoods, death of future fortunes, at least based on the identity of I'm a healthcare practitioner, I'm a doctor, I'm a pharmaceutical creator or business owner. In the unconscious, there's a values conflict. And again, sometimes not even unconsciously. As we know, there is absolutely some malicious foul play going on where the pharmaceutical industry doesn't even allow cures to actually occur, because then they can't sell a person a pill every day for the rest of their life. But I want you to take this thought experiment and really consider it. That look at the military industrial complex. How many livelihoods of good, decent, honest people, college education for their children, food on the table, being able to afford that house and healthcare is directly connected to there being conflict or the fear of conflict and the need to create implements of war and employ the Pentagon and on and on and on. And so on an unconscious level, there's a values conflict. I want war to be over, but if war is truly over and we truly have a world of peace, I'm out of a job, millions and millions of people are out of a job. The economy will go crazy. The cost of everything will skyrocket and we'll all suffer tremendously. That's a fact. Or the same thing with the health industry, or the same thing with the wealth industry. If everybody was wealthy and financially strong, think of the millions of jobs and the livelihoods and on and on and on. And again, even though that does not necessarily, is never going to occur dramatically overnight, on our unconscious level, we know that to achieve one value, health, wealth, peace in the world, means we would be sacrificing another value. To achieve health in the world would be to sacrifice wealth and success on another level. To achieve peace in the world would be to sacrifice wealth and success on another level. And not only that, but our identities, and this is where I'm going to bring it down to your personal life. Our identities are directly connected. Our mission, our sense of purpose, our sense of value, our sense of worth, our sense of meaning. If you are a health professional, a health coach, that even though you say you live to heal and create health and wholeness in the world, your deep sense of mission, purpose, value, worth, utility, usefulness is directly connected to there being a sick person to help. Do you follow? And so on an unconscious level, there's a values conflict. And so when we get it to our own personal lives and even in the world, not only would there suddenly be an economical Armageddon and all the jobs being lost and the financial crisis within people's lives, especially because most people are living paycheck to paycheck and some are even robbing Peter to pay Paul. There would be a psychological Armageddon. There would be a spiritual crisis. And we're seeing that already beginning to happen in some ways, obviously, with innovation and evolution and progress. There was a time when it was like, the horse and buggy idea. And suddenly that whole industry was afraid because the automobile was coming. And it was like, this was terrible. And all kinds of change and loss and psychological and spiritual crisis occurred. And then eventually the automobile industry grew and it expanded, and then a lot of those people could get new jobs and their future generations and all of that. And there was a time when the Mustang horse was on the verge of seemingly extinction. And there were headlines, it was the end times, because everything they did was by horseback, was using horses. It was horsepower. And the Mustang was going to go extinct, and so that was the end of times, and oh my God. And then Ford Mustang came along, right? The car came along and put the horsepower under the hood, created efficiency and optimization, and allowed more travel, and eventually evolution expanded. But there's always a crisis point before real progress happens. And we have the artificial intelligence movement and all of this stuff happening that's going to eliminate tons of jobs, but eventually will create more progress, more innovation. Now, certainly there's downsides and challenges, and there always is with progress, because we have to grow and adapt and mature for that new idea. But there's a crisis. And so there's an underlying war and a conflict around progress and evolution, which is the liberal or the left or the feminine, and conservation and keeping things the same and not changing too much, if at all, which is the right, the conservative, and the masculine structure. So there's always this battle between allowing more life to keep on, versus more life to keep emerging and unfolding, which is life itself, which is the divine feminine, versus hold on to the forms, safety, control, don't let things change too fast because my sense of self, my sense of safety, security, support, survival is locked up in and identified with the form that is. I'm a horse and buggy expert, or I ride horses and horses are the only way to go, or I'm a pharmaceutical expert, or and I say that I want to save lives with pharmaceuticals. I'm a general and I say that I want to create peace, and end conflict. I'm whatever. And I'm a healthcare practitioner and I want to heal lives and I want everybody to be healthy. That's progress, that's innovation. But there's also the wounded masculine side of it, which is, but I don't want it to happen too fast. I don't want it to threaten my survival, my livelihood, my kids' futures. And we don't really think about it often, but it's important to know that's what's going on, okay? And so in understanding that, and there's another example for I think it's like some kind of a little insect that lives on a bush, and it basically gets what it wants. It wants food, it wants to survive and thrive. And then eventually, because it gets what it wants, it gets what it's praying for, peace on earth, health for all, enough food for me to live the rest of my life, it suddenly just gets all this food, and it just eats, but eventually it runs out of food. By getting what it wants and consuming what it gets, it has no more food left. And it's just this little insect on a barren bush, and it seems like its life is over. And this again is what we deal with in these evolutionary leaps and progress in the world, in our industries, and in your life. But then what happens is it grows wings. Just when it seems like it's going to starve, like it got what it wanted, and the result is it ruined its world and its life because there's no more food and it's going to starve now, it grows wings. And it's able to fly to other bushes and to other worlds and expand its possibility. Just when we thought life was going to end because the Mustang was going to go extinct, lo and behold, automobiles unfolded and we put horsepower in a car and the world expanded. And now we suffer with coal and different ways of using oil and petroleum, and whole trillions of dollars of industry and livelihoods would just be destroyed if we suddenly lived in a green world. And again, that's happening unconsciously. But as we are willing to allow structures to break down mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually, in service of a higher vision, of the true desire of our heart, the true evolutionary impulse, we do go through and must go through the crisis, the crucifixion and the resurrection of old patterns, programming, ideas, perceptions, identities, and maps of reality. But as we cross that threshold, what emerges is a new identity, a more expanded map of reality, a bigger world, more possibilities, and more options. But again, what I want you to understand today as this thought experiment is that there's the reason we don't allow this progress to happen in the world and in our own personal lives is because on an unconscious level, we know that if we get what we really want, if we really get successful, we'll achieve that value, but we'll have to sacrifice the value of freedom or our sovereignty or our alone time, or so we believe. And for a short time in that transition, we may have to. But because we have that values conflict, we don't really commit and go all the way through and allow the transformation to happen where we think we've lost something terribly and then we grow wings. We don't allow that to happen because of the unconscious values conflict. If you've been struggling with health issues all your life and you become a master at understanding all the holistic health and supplements and you got your regimens and protocols, it's important to understand there's so much of an identity and a sense of mission and purpose built into not being healthy, but always being committed to figuring out the next best way to be healthy, that there's a part of you that doesn't actually want to be healthy. You understand? It's like the parable of Jesus with the sick man on the river, by the river, who had been lying on a mat for 30 years. And every time the angels would stir the water, he would never get down in time to get his healing. And everybody would come along and they would give him alms and in sympathy and empathy. And he was like, please, someone heal me. And Jesus comes along one day and says, Master, heal me. And Jesus saw the psychological values conflict. He saw the payoff for him to stay sick. And he said, do you want to be healed? In other words, are you aware of what that will require? You can't be the sick guy getting sympathy, getting alms, getting a few pittance without having to work for it, just lying around in your little bed of sorrow and pity. You have to let all that go. Are you sure you want to be healed? And the man said, yes. And Jesus went, then pick up your bed and walk. Get up, man. You're done with that identity. You're done getting pity. You're done getting a free ride. You have the power in you. Pick up your bed and walk. And so I want to invite you today to look at, where are you saying, I want this change. I want to have a great relationship. Well, you're going to have to let go of a lot of habits and cherished patterns of sovereignty. Not forever, but you're going to have to grow, and it's going to be painful at times. I want to be healthy. Well, you're going to have to let go of whatever payoff you've had for being sick, as well as some other habits and things that maybe give you temporary relief. I want to be wealthy and successful. Well, you're going to have to let go of certain things: comfort, convenience, safety, security, freedom, for a while, and at times as you allow growth and transition. Are you sure? Do you really want to be healed? Do you really want to be healthy? Do you really want to be wealthy and successful? Do you really want to be in love and commitment? Do you really want to have a family? You see what I'm saying? So I want to invite you today to look at one of those areas where you are really desiring something. You're committed to it, you think. You're praying for it, which means you're activating the energy of that emerging evolution. And sit down and go, what am I afraid is going to happen if I get this? What am I afraid I'm going to have to lose, let go of, or sacrifice if I get this? What am I afraid I'm going to have to confront and change if I get this? And then, as you discover that, if I get success, I'll lose freedom, I believe. If I get love, I'll lose sovereignty. Or commitment, I'll lose freedom. If I get wealth and success, I'll lose whatever. And then I want you to create your own values affirmation that basically says something like, the more success and wealth I get, the more freedom and power I have, versus believing you're going to give away your freedom and power. And the more I honor my freedom and power, the more inspired I am to pursue wealth and success. You follow me? So find a way to weave those seemingly conflicted values together. And in general, I just want to invite you to stay in this thought experiment, because if you're really hearing what I'm saying, there's a profound dichotomy in consciousness. We say we want a world of peace and health and wealth and success and all needs met for everyone. And we say we want that for ourselves and our loved ones. But if we got that, we would lose economical value, sense of purpose, sense of mission. And so I want you to sit with that so that you can begin to bring yourself into true integrity in knowing what you're praying for, knowing what you're asking for, and being willing and ready to actually receive it. So I hope this has supported you. This has been it was a much longer training than just a simple short, soundbite or inspirational quotes or whatever. But I really encourage you to listen to this again and to actually practice it and comment on this. Share what is your values conflict. Share what is your feedback, your insight, your pushback. Let's start a conversation, a conscious conversation where we begin to make explicit our unconscious conflicts so we can heal them, embrace them, and prepare ourselves for a real revolution in our own evolution. Until next time, remember to live authentically, to love unconditionally, and to follow your destiny.